I am pissed. Give me a second. I'm gonna plug myself in because I want you to hear what I have to say. Alright, so I was just watching the Ellen DeGeneres versus John McCain video on YouTube. For some reason, this made me remember that Canada, even though we are supposed to be the greatest nation, well, not the greatest nation, but we're supposed to be a very economically stable nation, and people are really welcome here, and we're not racist as much here. I'm sorry, I don't believe in that, but that's the standard idea that people put out there about Canada. Well, I've also realized that I bet if you went up to any teenager, well, most teenagers in my town or in local towns that aren't as politically active as other towns, you would notice that most teenagers know more about the U.S.'s government and who is running for president and who won presidency and etc., than our own government. Right now, if you didn't know, we're in a thing called a recession, which is it's like the starting point of a depression. Now, if you can remember the depression of the 20s or whatever it was, you learn it in history in grade 10 or whatnot. It was bad. It was really bad. We were losing everything. Now, a recession is what happens before the depression starts. It's where all the shit is just starting to lower, and it's just starting to get really bad now. We had a recession in the 70s, but you know how we got out of it? Vietnam. The depression in the 20s, I'm sorry if it's not the 20s, you know what year I'm talking about, so don't come at me saying it's not the 20s. The depression then, we got out of that because of World War. How do you think we're going to get out of this recession? 2 and 2 together. I'm not that stupid. Now, right now, about 6 weeks ago, we elected, what the fuck is his name? Stephen Harper to be our Prime Minister. He was supposed to make a big plan and stuff to make sure that our economy is stable and that we don't go into a depression. But I guess he didn't. So now the Liberals and the NDPs and the Frenchies, sorry if that offended you in any way, are all getting together to veto out Stephen Harper. So he got kicked out. Now, there is a guy who runs the Frenchie part, Dion or whatnot. He was going to be our Prime Minister 3 days ago. He was all happy and whatnot. He was like, oh, I'm going to be Prime Minister. But the NDPs and the Liberals and the Conservatives, they didn't like that. They didn't like that they were going to make him the Prime Minister. So now we have this Michael guy who is going to be our new Prime Minister. Without any of our say at all. We claim to be a democratic nation, yet we don't get a choice in the matter whatsoever whether we kick out our Prime Minister or not. It's their decision. We don't even get to choose who comes to replace them. So, I know this is a lot of subjects all at once. One, the first subject is the fact that teenagers in Canada and around Canada, in Canada, most of them that in towns that aren't as politically active as other towns, you probably hear more people in Ottawa saying they know more about Canadian politics than U.S. politics than you would in North Bay, because we pay more attention to the U.S. elections than we do our own. it's kind of sad, because this is our government. This is who is running our country, who are running our lives practically nowadays. And if you don't stay active and aware in those kind of things, then you're like killing your chance of getting what you need and what you want and making it an actual democratic nation. Democracy. I love democracy. I have big issues with democracy. The second thing was, god damn it, the recession we're going into, I think? Whatever. Recession. If you don't know what a recession is, look it up. Seriously, you need to look it up. If you live in Canada and don't know what a recession is and don't know what we're going through right now, has anybody noticed that when they go shopping, everything is cheaper? All the pants and t-shirts and clothes, obviously, jewelry, anything is getting extremely cheap. It's because they need to get rid of it. And because people are buying it so cheap, our economy is going down. And that is what we're making a recession of. It's because the stock market crashed. It's hard to explain. I cannot barely explain it. But that's the gist of it. So if somebody asks you, you know kind of what they're talking about. And I think the third thing was democracy in general, right? Like, the only pure democratic nation was Athens. They had every person in Athens vote on all the big decisions that they made. That way they would get a purely democratic vote. They would know exactly what their nation wanted. Here, we have people representing huge mass populations of people, saying they know what their city wants. How would you know what a couple thousand people that you're representing would want? Even worse, what if your city is like bigger than that, like Toronto or Hamilton or any of those big cities? Like, how do you know what your people want when you are only one person and there are 30,000 other people who are like, hey, hello, we kind of made this decision. The phone is ringing. Give me a second. Hello? I'm in the middle of making a video. Yeah, she is. Yep. One sec. Mom! Sorry about that. Yeah, so I was in the middle of that. Now the thunder has been killed. I just think, like, we give these people power and then we don't use it to our advantage. Instead, we sit on our asses and watch the US politics, which we have no power over, and act like we can make a decision on that when we can't. When our government right here at home is making the decisions for us because nobody is speaking out about anything. This is the generation where nobody gives a fucking shit. I apologize for cussing, but that pisses me the right off. Get off your fat ass, stop watching videos about things you believe in, and go out and actually do something. Go hold a protest, even if it's just you. One person can make a difference. Sure, maybe it won't work in my town, but you would at least get something across. People would talk about it, at least for a little while, and then when that little while is over, do something else. Just make the public's eyes open to what you want, and other people will come forward and be like, hey, we want this too. It's not hard to make change. You are just too friggin' lazy to get off your ass and do it, because it takes effort. People are not motivated anymore. They work, they sleep, they live, they die. That is the way of our lives. Whatever happened to the 70s protests? You know, where people actually cared about the issues that they were fighting for? They fought to get those people out of Vietnam. Now, we're giving away our power. We're putting these people in power and not using it to our advantage and being politically aware of what's going on and fixing the problems that we can fix. We have the power to fix these things. Like, ugh. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. I gotta end that right there, or I'm gonna start flipping out on people. Good morning where you are if it's morning. Good night where you are if it's good